I've informed Kitchener of your intention of joining up, and he has assured me that he will not let...
In 1902, in South Africa, Orlando, who holds the title of the Duke of Oxford, travels alongside his wife Emily, their son Conrad, and their protector Shola to a camp. Their destination is where Orlando is scheduled to meet with General Kitchener and his assistant Morton. While Orlando and Kitchener initiate their discussion, gunfire erupts as a sniper targets the soldiers in the camp. Emily rushes to shield Conrad but gets shot in the stomach before Shola identifies and eliminates the assailant. Orlando remains beside Emily until her final moments, while Conrad seeks solace with his mother. Fast forward 12 years, Orlando and Conrad return to their estate. Orlando converses with the nanny, Polly Watkins, while Conrad hones his combat skills under Shola's guidance. Later, Orlando takes Conrad to the Kingsman tailor shop, which serves as a place for his occasional business dealings. Meanwhile, at a clandestine location, the infamous Grigory Rasputin, known as the Mad Monk, joins forces with several other notorious figures such as Gavrilo Princip, Eric Jan Hanussen, Mata Hari, and Alfred Dupont. They encounter their leader, an elusive Scottish villain known as the Shepherd. He distributes animal-themed rings to each member of the group. When Rasputin expresses dissatisfaction with receiving a tortoise ring and wishes to swap with Princip, the Shepherd displays his brutality by slaying one of his cherished goats. He then dispatches Princip for his inaugural mission. Conrad accompanies his father as they navigate through a procession with Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his spouse Sophie. Meanwhile, Princip executes his assassination attempt by tossing a bomb at the Archduke's convoy, but Conrad deflects the bomb with an umbrella, inadvertently hitting the car trailing behind them. Amidst the chaos, they endeavor to flee to safety. Finding himself near a cafe, Princip contemplates suicide with a hidden cyanide pill within his ring due to his failure. However, upon noticing the Archduke's car heading towards a dead end, Princip seizes the moment and shoots both Ferdinand and Sophie, resulting in their demise before he is apprehended. In the aftermath, Orlando frets over the looming conflict among European powers. He confides in Conrad about the strained relationship between three cousins, King George V, Kaiser Wilhelm II, and Tsar Nicholas II, who now reign over England, Germany, and Russia, respectively. Despite historical animosity among them, Orlando's loyalty lies with King George. Hanussen serves as an advisor to Wilhelm, while Rasputin holds influence over Nicholas and his family. The outbreak of World War I wreaks havoc on Europe for more than 2 years. The Shepherd revels in his organization's triumph but plots for Russia to withdraw from the war, redirecting Germany's efforts towards England, fueled by the Shepherd's resentment towards England for mistreating Scotland. Rasputin manipulates Nicholas and his wife by poisoning their son Alexei with a candy covertly laced with poison, then exploiting his alleged divine powers to cure the boy, persuading Nicholas to keep Russia out of the conflict. Orlando and Kitchener clash over their stances on the war, with Conrad eager to enlist but Orlando staunchly opposing any involvement that could endanger his son. Later, aboard his ship, Kitchener expresses sorrow for the immense loss of lives, while a nearby submarine fires a missile, sinking Kitchener's vessel and claiming the lives of all on board. Subsequently, Orlando receives a letter penned by Kitchener before his demise, expressing remorse for their last interaction. Orlando then brings Conrad to a clandestine meeting with Polly and Shola at their secret hideout, where they devise plans to take matters into their own hands. He recounts visiting Princip in his jail cell, thwarting 2 guards attempting to execute him, and extracting information from Princip. Aware of the villain's scheme, they plot to target Rasputin and eliminate him before his influence exacerbates the situation further. Additionally, Orlando shares with Conrad his pacifist beliefs, stemming from his own experience as a proficient assassin, feeling that taking lives eroded too much of his humanity. The team heads to Russia with a plan to manipulate Rasputin's fondness for young men, intending to lure him into consuming a poisoned Bakewell tart, knowing the Mad Monk's weakness for sweet pastries. Orlando and Conrad infiltrate a dinner hosted by Rasputin, but he quickly loses interest in Conrad and focuses his attention on Orlando instead. Rasputin invites Orlando to his chambers, claiming he can miraculously heal Orlando's injured leg. In a strange ritual, Rasputin licks Orlando's wound before devouring half of the cake. However, Rasputin promptly vomits out the cake. He then leads Orlando outside to a frozen lake, where he reveals his awareness of the cyanide in the cake, explaining that he consumes poison daily to build immunity. Rasputin tries to drown Orlando, but Conrad and Shola intervene, engaging in a fierce battle with Rasputin before Orlando regains consciousness. Conrad shoots a bullet, knocking Rasputin's blade from his grasp just before he could harm Shola, but Rasputin then targets Conrad for attack. In a swift move, Orlando thrusts his knife into Rasputin's chest and hauls him to the lake, intending to drown him. Despite their efforts, Rasputin resurfaces for another assault, only to be swiftly dispatched by Polly's gunshot to the head, ending his life. The team returns home by train and commemorates Conrad's birthday. While Conrad is eager to continue the fight and join the battle, Orlando adamantly refuses to let his son engage in warfare. Later, Polly intercepts a communication from Wilhelm's secretary to Mexico, revealing Germany's attempt to forge an alliance with Mexico to attack the United States. President Woodrow Wilson receives the information but opts to wait for solid evidence before taking action, hesitating to involve the U.S. in the conflict. Meanwhile, Conrad swaps places with a soldier named Archie Reed and assumes his position on the front lines, standing alongside other British and Scottish soldiers in the face of the German army. A British army informant rushes towards them but gets caught in an explosion and is incapacitated. The general instructs the soldiers to retrieve the informant's body and recover whatever he was carrying from the battlefield under the cover of night. Later that evening, Conrad joins a group of 5 others as they stealthily confront the Germans. Amidst the chaos, they engage in close combat, narrowly escaping death at the hands of a large German wielding a hammer. However, a British soldier intervenes, shooting the assailant and triggering a barrage of gunfire and explosives from both sides. Conrad manages to flee to safety and encounters the injured informant, who has just lost his leg in the explosion. Overwhelmed with emotion, Conrad breaks down in tears, grappling with the realization that he has taken lives and never had the chance to bid farewell to his father. Finding solace in the informant's words of comfort, Conrad carries him across the battlefield at dawn. As the Germans spot them and open fire, the British army retaliates, exchanging gunfire with the enemy. An explosive blast propels Conrad and the informant into the barracks, resulting in the informant's death. Conrad delivers the item carried by the informant, but when he identifies himself as Archie, a soldier claiming to be friends with Archie challenges Conrad, accusing him of being a German spy. Without hesitation, the soldier shoots Conrad in the head, ending his life. Orlando receives the devastating news of his son's demise. A somber funeral is held, with Shola and Polly in attendance, mourning the loss of Conrad. Orlando sinks into a profound depression and resorts to drinking, rejecting assistance from Polly. However, after consulting with King George, Orlando resolves to join Polly and Shola in fulfilling the mission to honor Conrad's memory. It transpires that the item Conrad retrieved from the informant was written evidence of the telegram dispatched by Wilhelm's secretary. Hanussen and Hari arrive at the scene to witness the shepherd engaging in a duel with another member before discovering that Wilson has received the telegram. The shepherd dispatches the other member and dispatches Hari to the United States to manipulate Wilson. Meanwhile, Nicholas abdicates the throne. Orlando voyages to the United States, only to find that Hari has already made contact with Wilson and met with the ambassador. Recognizing Hari's malevolent intentions, Orlando foils her attack and strangles her with her own scarf. He then rendezvous with the ambassador and discovers that Hari seduced Wilson, capturing the encounter on video as leverage to keep the U.S. neutral in the war. Orlando, Polly, and Shola scout the villain's hideout and formulate their attack strategy. Polly stands guard with her rifle, while Shola assumes his position, and Orlando plans to parachute into the scene from a plane. The plane's controls jam, causing it to plummet towards the ground. Orlando successfully deploys his parachute, but it gets snagged halfway down a cliff. Using his knives, he manages to climb up, narrowly avoiding being knocked over by the shepherd's goat. Orlando grabs onto the goat's horn to hoist himself up and then soothes the animal to show he means no harm. Meanwhile, the shepherd dispatches DuPont to coerce Wilson into compliance, aiming to manipulate him into resigning so they can control the next president. However, DuPont encounters a setback when he becomes stuck in the descending elevator. A burly henchman halts the lift to engage in combat with Orlando, who has infiltrated the barn. As Orlando fights the henchman, Polly fires at other henchmen. Shola eliminates several adversaries before leaping onto the counterweight, severing the rope to lift himself up and send DuPont plummeting to his demise. Shola then decapitates the brute before rescuing Orlando. Together, they proceed to confront the shepherd. Orlando persuades him to come out, revealing that the shepherd was actually Morton all along. Morton had been working against Kitchener from the start and was responsible for launching the missile that killed him. Orlando and Morton engage in a duel, during which Shola takes a bullet intended for Orlando. They continue their fight near the cliff's edge, with Morton almost overpowering Orlando until the goat, whose horn had been severed earlier by Morton, impales Morton's leg with its remaining horn. Orlando seizes the opportunity, hoisting Morton over the edge. Initially doubting Orlando's resolve to let him fall, Morton soon realizes his mistake as Orlando releases him, sending him crashing onto a pile of rocks below. Orlando sends the video of Hari seducing Wilson to the president, prompting him to enter the war, ultimately leading to the end of World War I. He confers with King George, who updates him on the outcomes of his cousins. Wilhelm steps down from his position, while Nicholas and his entire family are tragically murdered. Orlando assembles with Shola, Polly, King George, Archie, and the ambassador at the tailor shop, which he recently acquired to establish as a covert headquarters. In homage to Conrad, Orlando assigns the team aliases inspired by the Knights of the Round Table, a concept Conrad admired as a child. Orlando adopts the name Arthur, Polly becomes Galahad, Archie takes on the identity of Lancelot, the ambassador is dubbed Bedivere, King George assumes the name Percival, and Shola is named Merlin. Thus, the Kingsman organization is established. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thanks and see you again soon. Take care.